You can take it off.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, I'm PJ Wilson. I'm the founder and president of SESA, the Solar and Energy Storage Association of Puerto Rico. We're a nonprofit that represents manufacturers, installers, finance companies, and solar and battery storage developers of all sizes, from homes, businesses, microgrids, and large-scale utility companies, including Winmar, was our first and one of our favorite companies. First, just procedural question. Mr. Peterson, at the beginning, you said that written comments would be posted and responded to quickly. I don't know if this is an oversight, but from your last meeting on July 1st, there's no responses yet posted from 11 weeks ago.
Okay, and I'm not.
Is that true?
I didn't say that.
We'll look into it immediately.
We'll take care of it.
Yeah, I said they would be responded to promptly. Yeah, we will look into it.
Okay. Thank you. Two questions I want to make. One is that Victor Gonzalez detailed a lot of concerning things that we have seen happen from the perspective of many solar and storage companies, especially pertaining to the PREPA RFP that's out right now. The action that happened, I know there's a lot that's already been said about this, but from last year when the 600 megawatts, the 450 megawatts was rejected of the large scale solar contracts that had been approved. It would be really helpful to solar developers who are participating in that RFP if they could have a commitment today that the Fiscal Oversight and Management Board will not step in at the end of the process and deny any contracts that are awarded by PREPA, approved by the Energy Bureau, approved by the P3 Authority.
Sir, we just need to complete, the logic is not our choice. The law, the PROMESA law provides the last say on contract review on the basis of those two criterion to the board.
Okay, I'm obligated to make the request.
Got it.
So it's something that would help the confidence of the local and international market in the RFP process if they had that assurance, but I understand if you can't give it. My second question has to do with the PREPA debt, which this looks like good news for the central government's desk, debt being solved. We're seeing a lot of strong political support from Governor Pierluisi. Thank you so much for speaking at our conference recently, and Antonio Medina as well. We're seeing a lot of political support from the legislature and the executive branch for renewable energy moving forward. And we know that solving PREPA's debt is really important for lots of reasons. But we're also seeing lots of political opposition to solar taxes, which we, as the solar industry, define as anything that makes the cost of solar higher and therefore lowers the rate of deployment. So my question is, can the Fiscal Oversight and Management Board include the solar experts, and particularly us, the Solar and Energy Storage Association, in helping to come up with politically possible solutions that can move forward and help get PREPA's debt solution solved quicker?
We'd be happy to talk with you about any potential solutions and ideas that you have, but I need to clarify, there is no solar tax in the RSA as negotiated. There is a charge to all and everyone who are on the grid to participate in paying for the legacy debt that was incurred by everyone who's been on the grid. There is no tax on solar. There is no differentiated treatment or poorer treatment or incremental charge if you're on solar. But that said, we should meet and we should talk about any and all ideas that you have.
Okay, we really appreciate that. We'll look forward to meeting, and just need to reiterate from the solar industry's perspective, there's absolutely, we define it as anything that increases the cost of solar, and it's 64 times in the current RSA. It says behind the meter charges. We require new meters to be installed and new charges to go on solar production. I appreciate your perspective, but we have to continue campaigning against anything that would slow down the rate of solar and storage, because that's what saves lives during blackouts here.
Thank you. Justin?
I want to underscore something our executive director said. There's no solar tax. That is propaganda. There is no solar tax. This is being used by people who don't want us to make progress, who don't want us to build a new grid. If you want if you want reliability, if you want affordability, if you want more efficient energy source, we need to end the bankruptcy. We need to bring investment in. But don't listen to the people that are saying there's a solar tax. That is propaganda. Thank you.
I'm representing the people that know for sure there's solar taxes in there. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be combative, but it is a fact that the RSA would require installing new meters on homes and businesses
For
to
legacy
measure-
debt, for everybody.
to measure their production of solar electricity and then charge them charges that don't exist today. So that is just the industry's view on it.
But that's for
Yeah, we
legacy.
should
We
probably.
need to continue to have this conversation, but, you know, a solar tax implies you're being penalized for using solar. That is not what the charge that you accurately described behind the meter is. The charge behind the meter is, as Justin Peterson just said, your contribution, because you're staying on the grid, you're relying on the grid, you're using the grid when your battery is not full and you need to have power, you are participating on an equal basis, equal to everyone else, using the grid for simply the cost of the legacy debt and pensions. It doesn't, you still will be generating your power at a much lower cost. So your bill will still be much less per kilowatt hour because your fuel cost is so much less. No one is changing your fuel cost. However, if you remain on the grid and you rely on that grid, and that grid is what enables you when it's cloudy or when your battery is insufficient to provide it, you need to participate in the legacy cost. Now, if that wasn't there, right, which is, I think, the proposal from the solar industry, let's be clear in Puerto Rico what it means. It's still the same amount of debt that has to be paid and still the same amount of pensions that have to be paid for PREPA employees. But then if you take everyone who's chosen and can afford to put solar on their rooftop, that means that everyone else who can't, who remains on the grid and relies on the grid, has to pay more. You are, in essence, excuse my language, damning those who remain on the grid with the past legacy cost. Again, we're not talking about your cost of fuel going forward. That's your benefit from putting in your solar, and that is your right. But the legacy debt and the legacy unpaid pensions are the responsibility of everyone, not just those who cannot afford to put renewables on their rooftop. And so it's not a disincentive to renewables. Your bills with your renewables will still be much less because your cost of fuel will be much less than that of people who remain on the grid fully. But in terms of a responsibility for the past borrowings and the past underfunding of PREPA employee pensions, everyone on this island, we all share in that responsibility.
Can I just add something? You know, this goes back to the intergenerational equity discussion that we just had. And this is something that going forward, we really need to make sure overall within the Commonwealth and all these units that we're really accounting for and funding these liabilities. Because just like pensions, the current taxpayer has to pay pensions of the past, right, for the current retirees. And that's money that current taxpayers should be going to fund current services, the services they're benefiting from. Same thing with this. It's the same concept. There's a whole bunch of legacy debt that those who leave the system can't just saddle everybody else who's on the system with that debt. There's got to be some sort of fairness because those who are leaving the system have benefited from all of that debt while they were on the system. And so it's a financial thing that we need to really think hard about, and that's why it's so important we get in structural balance right now in all of our units here in Puerto Rico, so we can have that stability going forward and we don't saddle future generations with liabilities that we're incurring now.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for this time. My hope is that we can meet and talk and come to an agreeable place, because if not, I fear the result will be just this process dragging out longer than it otherwise would.
Understood. We don't want that to happen.
I'll just briefly react to that. I'm happy that I was invited to your event. It was a great event. And I'm looking forward to continue the conversations that we started. So I want to emphasize that we are, in fact, in communication. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yes, thanks again.
Thanks so much. We're going to close the public comment period with that, since we've had a fulsome opportunity for back and forth.